Her husband brought his ex-wife home while she was in labor, but what he didn't expect was that the woman he abandoned in pain would return richer, stronger, and unstoppable. In the colorful and busy town of Mboko, everyone knew Nalima. She wasn't rich, but her hands worked magic with fabric. Her shop was small, but her heart was big. She greeted everyone with a warm smile, and her dresses made women feel like queens. When she walked through the market, even elders nodded with respect. She was known for kindness, honesty, and her big dreams. Then came Kenu, a tall, soft-spoken furniture maker whose eyes lit up when he saw Nalima. He came to her shop one day to fix a broken chair. By the time he left, his heart wasn't the only thing that needed mending. He came back again and again, and soon people started whispering, "Love is brewing between the tailor and the carpenter." Their love blossomed like flowers after the rain. It was simple, sweet, and true. When Kenu proposed, Mboko danced for 2 days. The wedding was beautiful. No gold, no diamonds, just love, laughter, and prayers. People said, "This is what real love looks like." Women pointed to Nalima and told their daughters, "Be like her, humble, hard-working, full of grace." After marriage, they moved into a small, cozy home. Nalima turned one room into her sewing space, and Kenu built furniture for their neighbors. They worked hard, laughed loud, and loved even louder. They dreamt of children, a bigger shop, and a life full of joy. It was the kind of marriage people admired, quiet but strong. Months passed, and Nalima found out she was pregnant. She cried in Kenu's arms, overjoyed. He lifted her in the air and said, "Our child will be the light of Mboko." They painted the baby room with their own hands, picking yellow, the color of sunshine. Kenu even carved a tiny crib with the baby's name already on it, Leone. But slowly, things began to change. Kenu started coming home late. His smile grew shorter, his phone busier. Nalima thought maybe it was just stress. She made his favorite yam stew, massaged his back, and prayed harder. Then one night, he called another woman's name in his sleep, Simara. Nalima froze. That name she knew. Simara, the ex-wife who had left Kenu years ago, the one he said broke his heart. Nalima didn't speak of it. She buried her pain and focused on the baby. She told herself, "It's just a dream. The past is past." But fate was already opening a door she never thought would swing back open. The peaceful home filled with love was slowly cracking, and behind that crack, betrayal stood smiling, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In Mboko, people still smiled at the couple. They still whispered, "They're perfect." But inside Nalima's heart, something no one could see had already begun to ache. She didn't know it yet, but the most painful day of her life was only days away, and it wouldn't come from a stranger. It would come from the man who once promised her forever. Nalima's joy was like sunshine when she found out she was pregnant. She had waited for this moment, to carry life inside her, to build a family with the man she loved. She surprised Kenu with the news one evening, handing him tiny baby shoes wrapped in a scarf. His face lit up, and he lifted her into his arms, laughing. "We're going to be parents," he shouted. It felt like the beginning of something beautiful, but that beauty didn't last long. Soon after the news, Kenu began changing. He still smiled, but the warmth was missing. He'd leave early and come back late. He blamed work. "Orders are piling up," he said. "Customers don't wait." Nalima believed him. She cooked his favorite meals, stayed up late waiting, rubbed her growing belly, and told the baby, "Daddy is just tired." But things got stranger. She noticed him whispering on the phone, walking into the yard to speak, lowering his voice when she came near. He became protective of his phone, never leaving it behind. One day, she saw him quickly delete a message as she walked into the room. Her heart sank a little, but she didn't ask. She didn't want to seem suspicious. Maybe she was just being sensitive because of the pregnancy. Still, doubt started creeping in. Kenu stopped talking about the baby. The room they were decorating stayed unfinished. The carved crib he promised to build still sat in pieces. She asked, "When will you finish it?" He replied with a shrug, "Soon. There's time." One night, Nalima couldn't sleep. Her back ached, and the baby was kicking. She turned to look at Kenu, who was fast asleep beside her. Then he mumbled something. "Simara." Her heart stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. Simara? That name wasn't just a name. It was his ex-wife, the woman who left him 5 years ago for the city. The woman Kenu once said broke him. He told Nalima he had healed, that she was his fresh start. He swore Simara was in the past. But now, here she was. In his dreams, in his sleep, in his mouth. Nalima stared at him in the dark, her chest tight. She wanted to shake him awake, ask him what that meant, but she didn't. She just lay there, holding her belly, whispering to her unborn child, "It's okay, we're okay." But deep down, something had cracked. Her heart didn't feel safe anymore. The next day, Kanu acted like nothing had happened. He kissed her forehead, packed his bag, and said he'd be back by sunset. He didn't return that night. Nalima sat by the window until morning, trying to fight the truth already clawing at her chest, that the man she loved might be slipping away. And the name Simara was more than just a memory. It was a storm rising quietly behind her back. The morning started like any other. Nalima woke up early, humming as she prepared breakfast. The soft morning breeze came through the window as she stirred a pot of porridge. She moved slower now. Her belly was heavy, and each step took effort. Her due date was close, just days away. She had everything packed and ready, the baby clothes, the little blanket, and a name picked out. She kept looking at the front door, expecting Kenu to walk in with fresh fruit like he promised the night before. But the door stayed closed. Then, without warning, she felt a sharp pain run through her lower back. She dropped the wooden spoon. A sudden gush of water soaked the floor beneath her. Her heart raced. The baby was coming. She shouted, "Kenu! Kenu, it's time!" Her voice echoed through the quiet house. No reply. She picked up her phone with shaking hands and called him. It rang and rang. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. Panic started to rise. Her hands trembled as another wave of pain hit her. She leaned against the wall, breathing hard. She called Kenu's brother, hoping maybe he was with family. "I haven't seen him in 2 days," his brother said. "I thought he was with you." Nalima's legs went weak. She tried calling her neighbor, Mama Yani, who lived next door, but the phone rang without an answer. It felt like the whole world had gone silent while she was drowning in pain. Another contraction tore through her. She cried out, gripping the table to keep from falling. Sweat poured down her face. Her breaths became short and quick. "Not like this," she whispered. "Not alone." She forced herself to sit on the floor, trying to remember the breathing the nurse had taught her. In, outside, in, outside. But the pain didn't listen. It came in waves, strong and mean. She tried calling Kenu one last time. This time the phone went straight to voicemail. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her heart hurt more than her body. Where was he? Why now? Why leave when she needed him most? She thought of the crib still unfinished, the baby clothes folded neatly, the dreams they had built together. She whispered to her belly, "Hold on, baby. Mama is trying." Minutes felt like hours. The world outside went on. Birds chirped, people passed. But inside that small house, Nalima sat alone, in labor, in pain, abandoned. A neighbor finally heard her screams and rushed in, eyes wide in shock. "Nalima, you're in labor." She nodded, unable to speak. The neighbor ran to call help, while Nalima gripped the edge of a chair, breathing through the pain, trying not to scream again. And still, Kenu was nowhere. No calls, no messages, no sign of the man who had promised to stand by her through everything. In that moment, Nalima knew something was terribly wrong, not just in her body, but in her life. The pain had taken over Nalima's body. She was drenched in sweat, gripping the edge of the bed as another contraction hit. Her neighbor had called for a midwife, but they hadn't arrived yet. The house felt too small, too hot, too loud with the sound of her own breathing. She kept glancing at the door, praying Kenu would walk in and hold her hand, say something comforting, do anything to make her feel less alone. Then, just as the sun began to dip behind the trees, the door creaked open. Nalima lifted her head slowly, her face lit up through the exhaustion. "Kenu," she whispered, "thank the stars, you're here." But her smile died the moment she saw the figure behind him. A tall woman stepped in, wearing high heels and a bright yellow dress that clung to her figure. Her face was familiar, too familiar. Nalima's heart stopped. It was Samara, the woman from Kenu's past, the woman he used to cry about, the woman who had left him years ago for a better life in the city. Kenu walked in like it was any normal evening. No panic, no urgency, no explanation for his sudden absence. He set down a small bag and looked straight at Nalima. "Samara has nowhere to go," he said, voice calm like nothing was wrong. "She's staying here." Nalima blinked through tears and pain. "What?" Her hands pressed against her belly, the baby moving, pushing, fighting to come out. She was already at the edge. "Kenu, I'm in labor, and you bring her into our home." Kenu didn't answer. Samara stepped forward, a wicked smile stretching across her lips. She looked at Nalima like she was nothing. "Wow," she said slowly, scanning the room. "Still living in this little box? I thought you'd have upgraded by now. Looks like I came just in time to take back what's mine." Nalima gasped, her hand reaching for the bedpost, as a wave of pain knocked the air out of her lungs. She couldn't believe this was happening. It felt like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Her husband, standing there with his ex-wife, while she was struggling to give birth, alone, humiliated, heartbroken. "I gave you everything, Kenu," she cried. "I stood by you when you had nothing. I carried your child, and this is what you bring to my doorstep." Samara chuckled, not even pretending to hide her pleasure. She walked around the room like she already owned it. "You're weak," she said, "and Kenu deserves better." Nalima's vision blurred. She gritted her teeth as another contraction hit. The pain wasn't just physical anymore. It was in her chest, her soul. She had never felt so small, so betrayed. The midwife finally arrived, rushing to Nalima's side, but her eyes darted to the doorway, confused by the sight of 2 women and 1 man. And as they helped Nalima lie back down, tears running down her cheeks, she knew one thing for certain: her world would never be the same again. The night was heavy, thick with silence and betrayal. Nalima lay curled on the floor, her body trembling as another sharp contraction tore through her. She reached out weakly toward Kenu, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, take me to the clinic. I'm in too much pain." Kenu stood at the doorway, arms crossed, a cold expression on his face. "Samara's tired from her journey," he said, like that was more important than his wife in labor. "I'll call a bike for you." But he didn't move. He didn't reach for his phone. He didn't even look at her. Nalima's eyes filled with tears. Her fingers gripped the edge of the stool for balance as she tried to stand. Samara's voice floated out from the bedroom, smug and cruel. "Don't be dramatic, Nalima. Women have been giving birth alone for centuries. You'll survive." Nalima's heart cracked. Every part of her screamed, not just from the labor, but from the shame, the pain of being left to suffer in front of the very man she had trusted with her life. She waited a moment longer, hoping, praying, but no one came. Kenu sat back on the couch. Samara turned on the fan in the bedroom. That was it. So Nalima did the unthinkable. She grabbed a thin cloth from the table, wrapped it around her waist, and crawled to the door. Her knees scraped the ground. Her breath hitched with every step. She reached the doorframe, then dragged herself down the front steps. No one was outside, no light, no neighbor in sight, only the distant hum of crickets and her own gasps. She tried to scream, but her voice was too weak. Every contraction hit like fire in her belly. Her legs shook, barely holding her up. Still, she kept going. 1 step, 1 more. Then she stumbled and fell to her knees again. Her hands hit the dirt. Her face was streaked with tears and sweat, but she forced herself up. She whispered, "For my baby, I must keep going." She moved like a shadow, slowly, painfully, through the dark streets of Mboko. Her vision blurred, the ground swaying beneath her. Every house she passed was silent, asleep, unaware of the woman outside fighting to stay alive. A small shop with a dim lantern flickered ahead. Hope. She crawled toward it, dragging herself like a soldier wounded in battle. But before she could reach it, another wave of pain took her down. She curled on the ground, clutching her belly, whispering prayers through clenched teeth. The world around her faded, stars above, dust below, and Nalima, alone, abandoned in the heart of the night, still holding on, not for herself, but for the tiny life inside her that didn't ask for this pain, this betrayal, this cruel beginning. Nalima's body finally gave out near the dusty junction where the old market road met the forest path. She dropped to her knees, trembling, her fingers digging into the earth as a fierce contraction tore through her belly. Her breath was shallow, eyes barely open. The world spun around her, her vision dark at the edges. Her dress was soaked, her strength gone. She was ready to give up. But then, a light, a faint humming sound. A motorbike came to a sudden stop. The rider, a woman in her 30s, jumped down without hesitation. She wore a simple yellow scarf and sandals dusty from travel. Her eyes met Nalima's, wide with alarm, but full of kindness. "Hey, sister, are you okay? Can you hear me?" Nalima could only nod weakly. "I'm Tafara," the woman said quickly, kneeling beside her. "Don't speak, just breathe. I'm taking you now." Without another word, Tafara scooped Nalima onto the back of her bike, tied her cloth tightly to hold her steady, and sped through the empty streets of Mboko. The night air rushed past them, but Tafara rode like she had wings, her hands firm, her heart full. Every bump on the road made Nalima cry out, but Tafara kept whispering, "You're strong. Hold on. We're almost there." Minutes later, they arrived at the small birthing shelter run by elderly midwives. Tafara banged on the door. "She's in labor. Please, help her." The women rushed out, carried Nalima inside, and worked quickly. Nalima fought the pain with every last ounce of strength. The room was warm, the lights dim, and the only sound was her cry as her body pushed. Then, a scream, a gasp, and finally, the first cry of a baby, a girl, small but loud, fierce. Nalima looked at her, tears pouring down her cheeks. Her arms shook as she reached out. "Leone," she whispered. "Your name is Leone." Tafara, still there, smiled gently. She brought a warm cloth and wrapped the baby. She fed Nalima water, brushed her hair back from her face, and held her hand. All night, she stayed. She didn't leave. She bathed little Leone, helped her latch, and cleaned up the room while the midwives rested. Nalima, weak but alive, looked at her and asked, "Why did you help me?" Tafara only smiled and said, "Because someone helped me once, when I was alone and broken." "You're not broken. You are just beginning." In that quiet room, Nalima realized not everyone in the world would hurt her. Not everyone would abandon her. And sometimes, the people who save you aren't the ones you've known forever. They're strangers with kind eyes and hearts made of gold. That night, a mother was born, a daughter too, and an angel named Tefera reminded Nalima that even after the darkest storm, help can still come like a whisper in the night. Nalima didn't go back to that house, not after what happened, not after being left in pain, while the man she loved stood with another woman. She held her baby close, kissed her soft cheeks, and walked away from the life that broke her. With the little savings she had hidden in her wrapper, she rented a tiny one-room apartment at the edge of Mboko. The walls were cracked, the roof leaked when it rained, but it was hers. It was peaceful. It was safe. Each morning, Nalima would breastfeed Leone, tie her to her back, and pull out her sewing machine. She started sewing baby clothes, repairing torn shirts, stitching colorful wrappers. Her fingers moved fast, steady, focused. Her pain turned into thread, her anger into fabric, her tears into patterns, and people noticed. They would say, "Her stitches hold strength, her hands speak stories." Soon, Tafara returned to visit. She smiled at Nalima's work and said, "There's someone you must meet." She introduced her to Ms. Olanji, a retired fashion mogul who once dressed queens and first ladies. Olanji wore large glasses, bold scarves, and had a voice like thunder. When she saw Nalima's pieces, she ran her fingers over the cloth slowly and nodded. "Who taught you?" she asked. Nalima answered softly, "Life." Olanji laughed. "Good. That's the best teacher." She didn't ask more. She simply said, "I'll help you. You're going to rise, child." With Olanji's support, Nalima launched her own fashion brand, Nal Threads. She designed bold, modern pieces with deep African roots. Every outfit telling a story of survival, strength, and beauty. The colors she chose spoke of fire, hope, and rebirth. Word spread fast. A TV crew came for an interview. Then a local singer wore her design to a music awards show. Then a Nollywood actress asked for custom pieces. Orders poured in. Nal Threads became a name that echoed beyond Mboko. People traveled from other towns just to buy from the woman who once stitched on a wooden table with a baby on her back. Nalima never forgot those dark days, but she didn't let them define her. She grew bolder, stronger, fiercer. She hired other young women, trained them, paid them well. She gave jobs to single mothers and young girls who had lost their way. She said, "If no one gives you a seat at the table, sew your own seat. Sit proudly." People watched in awe. They whispered, "Is that not the woman Kenu left during labor? Look at her now." The girl who once crawled on the dirt road, clutching her belly in pain, now stood on stages, her daughter beside her, both dressed in the finest clothes her own hands had made. Nalima didn't just survive, she soared. While Nalima was building a new life with strength and grace, back in her old home, Simara was living like royalty. She wore Nalima's clothes, walked around with loud heels on quiet floors, and barked orders like the queen of Mboko. Kinu, still caught in her charm, didn't notice the little things, how his money was vanishing, how the furniture in his workshop kept disappearing. When he asked, Simara would smile sweetly and say, "I sold it to help you with bills. Don't worry, love." But Simara wasn't helping. She was draining him. Every day she made secret calls, laughed at texts, and met a younger man named Dulo behind his back. Dulo was tall, flashy, full of sweet lies and even sweeter greed. To him, Samara was just another woman with a man's wallet to empty. Kenu had no idea. He thought he had won, that by bringing Samara back, he'd filled the hole in his heart. He believed he had rebuilt something special, but the truth was rotting behind the walls. One day he came home early from the market. His workshop had lost another big client, and he just wanted to lie down. As he opened the gate, he noticed an unfamiliar motorcycle parked outside. His chest tightened. Quietly, he stepped inside the house, and what he saw froze him. There, in the living room, was Samara, her arms wrapped tightly around Dulo. They were laughing, kissing, completely unaware. Kenu dropped the basket in his hand. The sound startled them. Samara turned, saw Kenu, and instead of shame, she smirked. Kenu stuttered. What is this?" Samara rolled her eyes. "What does it look like?" Kenu's hands trembled. "After everything. After I left my wife while she was in labor. For you." Samara stood up, arms crossed, chin high. "I never loved you, Kenu. I left you once, remember? You were the fool who begged me back. I just came for what I lost. Your house, your pride. And now, I'm done." Dulo laughed and gave a mock salute as he walked out with her. Kenu stood there, alone, shaking. Everything he had, his money, his business, his home, had vanished. Samara had taken it all, and worse, she had left his heart in ruins. He tried to call her later. She blocked him. He went to friends for help. They turned him away. The people of Mboko whispered, "He left Nalima in labor for that woman. And now look." Kenu sat on the same floor where Nalima once cried in pain. Now it was his turn, but this time no one came to help, not even mercy. Samara, the snake he invited into his home, had bitten deep, and she slithered away without a care, leaving him bankrupt, broken, and forgotten. Kenu wandered the streets of Mboko, lost and broken. Every corner reminded him of what he had thrown away: love, trust, a family. Desperate to find Nalima, he asked neighbors and friends, but most avoided him. His pride was shattered, his reputation in ruins. One afternoon, as he walked near the market, something caught his eye. A giant billboard shining in the sunlight. There she was, Nalima, confident and radiant, holding her baby girl, Leone. The words beneath her picture read, "Nal threads, worn by queens." Kenu's heart sank. He stood there, barefoot and ragged, a man defeated by his own choices. He traced the letters with trembling fingers, whispering, "Nalima, I was wrong. I should never have doubted you." Inside the store, Nalima worked with calm focus, stitching vibrant fabrics into beautiful clothes. The crowd admired her, recognizing her talent and strength. Her name was now a symbol of power, not pain. She carried Leone gently, the little girl who was both her light and her victory. When Kenu appeared at the entrance, the chatter stopped. Everyone turned to look at the man who once abandoned her in the darkest moment of her life. He looked at Nalima, eyes full of regret, but she didn't show anger or tears. Instead, she walked past him with quiet grace. She stopped just a few steps away and faced him calmly. "You left me when I needed you most," she said softly, her voice steady but firm. "You chose your past over our future. I found myself in pain, alone and broken, but I didn't stay down. I rose." Kenu tried to speak, to explain, but she held up a hand. "There is no going back. I am not the woman I was before. I am stronger now, for me and for Leone." Her words pierced him deeper than any insult. This was the woman he had underestimated, the woman he had hurt and betrayed. Now she was untouchable, a queen in her own right. Kenu fell silent. The crowd watched as he turned away, shame weighing heavy on his shoulders. He realized that some mistakes leave marks too deep to erase. Nalima's success was a mirror reflecting his failures. The story of Kenu and Nalima spread through Mboko like wildfire. People talked about the man who chose his past and lost his future, and the woman who turned pain into power. Nalima's courage inspired many, especially women who believed they could rise above their struggles. Kenu's downfall was complete, not just because of lost wealth or broken trust, but because he had betrayed the very person who believed in him. Meanwhile, Nalima moved forward, her head held high, proof that true strength comes from within. As Nalima continued to build her empire, her story became a beacon of hope, reminding everyone that no matter how dark the night, a new dawn always arrives. And for Kenu, that dawn had long passed without him. Months passed, and the town of Mboko buzzed with stories of Nalima's incredible journey. From the woman left alone in pain She had risen like a phoenix, stronger and more determined than ever. The community recognized her strength and courage. One bright afternoon, at a ceremony filled with applause and tears, Nalima was named Mboko's Woman of the Year. The award wasn't just for her success in fashion, but for the hope she gave to so many. With the prize money and support from friends like Tafara and Mizolanji, Nalima built something bigger than clothes, a safe place for women who were like her. She opened a clinic dedicated to single mothers, naming it Tafara Haven, after the woman who saved her in the darkest hour. The clinic provided free care, support, and a place to heal for women carrying heavy burdens alone. On the clinic wall, a simple but powerful message was painted in bold letters. Pain made me strong. Betrayal made me wiser. And love found me in my own reflection. This became a beacon, reminding every woman who walked through the doors that their struggles didn't define them, their courage did. Meanwhile, Kenu's life had fallen apart completely. Once proud and confident, he was now seen near the bus stop, begging for help, shamed by his own mistakes. He had lost everything: his home, respect, and the woman who once loved him deeply. The same town that cheered for Nalima now pitied Kenu's downfall, a harsh reminder that betrayal has a price. Simara, the woman who had returned like a storm, was nowhere to be found in Mboko anymore. Rumors spread that she had traveled to another town, trying to con a man with her lies and charm, but people whispered that karma followed her like a shadow. Wherever she went, her deceit caught up fast, leaving her with nothing but broken promises and lost trust. Nalima's story was told and retold, a lesson etched into the hearts of everyone who heard it. Never betray a woman during her moment of pain. She may cry today, broken and hurt, but tomorrow she will rise, stronger, wiser, and ready to build an empire that no one can enter without her permission. Nalima had turned her deepest hurt into a powerful legacy. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a queen in her own right, inspiring generations to believe that no matter the betrayal, pain, or loneliness, the future belongs to those who refuse to give up. Her journey from heartbreak to triumph became a symbol of hope, a reminder that true power grows from within, and that a woman's worth is never measured by the men who try to break her, but by the empire she builds when they walk away. And so, in Mboko, under the warm African sun, Nalima's light shone brighter than ever, a beacon of strength, love, and unbreakable spirit. If this story touched your heart, then take a moment and think of every woman who has suffered in silence, who has cried alone in the dark, who was abandoned when she needed someone the most. Think of Nalima, left in pain, crawling into the night, yet rising with fire in her spirit. She didn't just survive, she became unstoppable. Her story is not just hers, it's the story of so many women whose strength blooms in the ashes of betrayal. It's a reminder that pain can be power if you refuse to give up. If you've ever been broken, forgotten, or hurt, know this: your scars can shine and your voice can roar. Never let anyone define your worth. Let Nalima's journey be the light for someone still trapped in their darkness. Let her victory remind the world that a woman betrayed is not a woman destroyed. She is a woman reborn. If this story moved you even a little, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today. Let's spread this message far and wide, because someone out there is waiting for a sign to keep going. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that lift hearts and inspire souls. Thank you for watching. And remember, she cried once, but now she rules. Don't underestimate the power of a woman in pain.